All right, here it is complete. The pattern says that it'll be 48 inches wide. Now from side to side I got 42 inches, but from corner to corner I got 51. Not sure which way they were measuring. It calls for 10 burnout pop cakes. I use mandala. Mandala is a 3-weight yarn. The burnout pop are 4-weight yarn. This is the colorway Hercules, and it's a sparkle. Really, really pretty. But I did not use nearly 10 balls. I used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5 balls of the mandala. It does have a little more yardage in it, but I really didn't think I would finish with only 5.5 balls. So there it is, but let's get on to part 2 of our bib. All right, so these are the things you're gonna need. Again, I said I was gonna get some Aunt Lydia's Classic 10, so I've got that. And I need another pair of scissors, or the same pair of scissors again. So, a pair of scissors. And one of the bibs that you already have the extra wide double fold bias tape on. And we're gonna start right up here. So my crochet hook is a 1.5 millimeter. You see that? 1.5 millimeter. It's a number 2 hook. Teeny tiny hook, but it works well for the Aunt Lydia's Classic 10. In fact, it does call for the 1.5. Sure it does. There, 1.5 millimeter crochet hook. Okay, and I am using Victory Red. This is a size 0. All right, let's get our label off. When you get Aunt Lydia's, you just have to look and turn it around and around and around, and you'll find one string that it's tucked up into a bunch of strings. That's going to be your end. I've never tried doing a center pull on these, but you can see in there is a string in there, but there's a cardboard roll in there, so I never tried to do it. Now, do your slip stitch, but I'm going to recommend that you leave a really long tail. The reason being is there's not a lot of material that you'll have crocheted because this is such a fine thread, and you're going to need to tie that tail in somehow. So what I do is just take it with me. All right, so I'm gonna try and stay in frame this time. My last video was awful. Because this is sharp, you can actually just punch right through. So you're gonna punch it through, pick up both strands, pull them through, and you're just going to turn it into a slip stitch. Might have to work at it a little bit when there's 2 threads that you're working on. Well, they're through. It is more difficult when you're working with 2 threads because the hook is so small. They don't both want to stay on the hook. You got 1 through. It does get easier, I promise. And let's pull the other one through. Good. And line them both up again. So, you did a slip stitch, but I'm going to have you chain 1. Now here's where you have to make the decision of what kind of pattern you want to do. So I think what I'm going to do is just do single crochets all the way around, and then I'll add something with a little pizzazz after that. This whole edge of the washcloth has been serged. You can see it better on the back side of the washcloth, but you'll feel the lump. So you just want to go in underneath that serger lump, pick up both of your threads back there. You're gonna have to put some tension on it, otherwise it won't work. And then with the 2 threads, okay. We're almost done with 2 threads, but again, this is the only way you're really going to get that thread end to tie in. When you get to the other end, or when you finish and you have that other end to tie in, you have to use the crochet hook to tie the end in. There's really no other way around it. Or you could tie a knot. All right, so you can see how that goes. Just try to evenly space them and pull through and do single crochets all the way around. You can see how that's going. Now when you get to the corner, just put in as many stitches around the corner as you think are going to make it not curl. I've never actually counted the number that I use. I just always make sure that it's not tight and it's not going to cause the edge of the bib to curl. So on the corner, the inside edges are going to be closer together and the outside edges are going to be further apart so that they look like they're on the diagonal. Every once in a while you'll find a section that's really hard to punch through. Just move down a little. Any kind of finish edging that you like to do on blankets, or even if you do embroidery washcloths for people as gifts, you can certainly do that here. Well, I don't like how close that is, so I'm going to pull that one out. And I will say that if you have to frog with this stuff, it's nice. It doesn't typically unravel. I've never had it snag on itself. You know how you get those little fuzzies on yarn that make it hard. All right, there we are around the first corner. You can see it stayed pretty well upright. Oops, sorry, stayed pretty well upright. It's not folding over or buckling. I am going to go all the way around and I will meet you over here. All right, here I am all the way back around. I try to get the spacing as even as I can, but I never really stress about it too much if it's not that even. All right, so I think I figured out which pattern I want to do. So you're gonna chain one, which isn't gonna count for anything because we're not coming back. Turn your work. And we're gonna do like a modified kind of shell. So we're gonna do a single crochet, a half double crochet, a double crochet, another half double crochet. Oh, I lost some of my tautness there, and then a single crochet. Sure we are. All right, so basically you just get this little modified shell all the way around. Now you can do that, or you can just do three double crochet in each one, and that works out well. You don't get much dimension. It's going to be flat all the way around. If you do 5, you'll get a little bit of a wave to it, so that'll be a little bit more dimension. Or you could just stop after the single crochet. If you're fine with your spacing, if you're fine with the way this looks all the way around, you can do any of those. So you have to decide what it is you want to do. I mean, you could even continue on and do the single, half, double, half, single here, and then the next one do the 3 doubles again. You can do anything you want to make it how you want. All right, so I am going to complete this all the way around, and I'll be right back with you. All right, here I am back again, and I have now come back around and completed the second row. And I just tied off like you normally would, but typically what I'll do, because I'm not always confident in this crochet thread staying where I put it, I am going to hold a little loop here and pull another small section through and the stitch next to it. And then pull it back through again, just so I'm sure that it's tight. And now the tedious part, where you can sew these in. That's certainly an option, but I find sometimes it's just as easy to stick a hook in and pull it through. Oh, it looks like I'm unraveling here though. Maybe I will sew through. Alright, so let's see, get us a small needle. Those are all rather large. Oh, there's a small one. Okay. I don't like using a needle for this typically because the needle is much bigger than the stitches, but we'll make it work. I just sort of feed it through so that it doesn't show much on either side. So you have a little bit sticking out here and a little bit sticking out there. Yeah, this is a really thick needle for this process. Feed it through a little bit. There we go. And the best way to lock it is to go back the opposite direction. So you may have to pull it tight. Skip a stitch or two. So this is where I came out. I don't want to go back in there. And then we're going to go back this way. Make sure that I have enough thread. Pull back the way we wanted. Now thread can move in two directions, the crochet thread, just like yarn. So once we're through, I like to stretch it out a bit so that it doesn't bunch up too much or bind up too much. And go back a third time. For me, this just seems most secure. Now I am using a blunt needle. This may go quicker with a sharper point. Yeah, see, I pulled right out there. Let's see. All right, go back through here. Try to stay in the center of all those stitches. All right, so what you can do now is pull it out a little tighter than what you intend it to be. Snip it off as close to the as close to the project as you can get, and then stretch it back out a little and bury that end in. All right, so this is our finished bib. You look all the way around. And when I started it, I made the suggestion that possibly you could do this, the type of shell stitch I started with, which was a single crochet, a half double crochet, a double crochet, a half double crochet, and then a single crochet that finishes the stitch. And then I also did crochet 3 in 1. So I actually did that all the way around. So this is the modified shell and then a triple crochet, and a modified shell and a triple crochet. Now you don't have to do that. You can do it any way you want. And in fact, I think the other ones that I make, because I am going to make 3 more. I think those 3 I'm going to do a different border on all of them so that they're all a little bit different. But that is how you complete a handmade crochet bib. And like I said, my family's been making these for about 40 years. And I don't think I'm going to embroider anything. I know I was going to do a small heart here, but I think any of the things that I would embroider on there would be probably too gender specific. And rather than do that for a baby that we don't know the gender of, I think red is going to work out great. So this is a project I think anybody can do. It does take a little getting used to working on crochet thread and using such a very small hook. Like I said, this is a 1.5 millimeter hook. It's very, very, very small. It's really hard if you're not used to it. I did manage to get the whole bib done then, though, I left you after I started 2 of these stitches. There's a lot of stitches around, and in the first half of my football game I did get all the way around, and that's a lot of stitches, because that, if you figure, that's 5 and then 3 and then 5 and then 3 and then 5 and 3, so every ½ inch is 8 stitches, so that's 8 and 16, 24. You get the picture. It's a lot of stitches, but it went fairly quickly once you get used to it. And I do find that if you make sure that you have a softer crochet thread, it works better with these small hooks. The more stiff the crochet thread is, the harder it is to keep it inside this little hook. Okay? Okay, as you see, I did have to put my eyeballs on for those little stitches. It's a little rough to see those if you're not still 30. But I think it turned out quite well. They're big. They work well even up to toddler. I'm glad you stayed here with me, and I hope to see you next time. Happy crocheting. Jennifer with Crafty Bones. Goodbye.